everyone. Welcome you all to the Investment Management class. I am Impa Beliappa, Associate Professor, Department of Management Sciences, Maharaja Institute of Technology. So in the previous class, we have discussed about our Unit 2 which we had started, where we discussed about the risk and return concepts. In return, we discussed about its meaning, where in the meaning we discussed how return generates along with the current yield and the capital appreciation. Then we learned its determinants, where we learned about the time, inflation and the risk involved in it. Then we discussed about the three measures which we took in order to calculate for the calculation of return, like arithmetic mean return, holding period return and simple annual return. And also we discussed the risk concept, where the probability of loss where once it occurs, that we have discussed. And also we have discussed the two types of risk, which include systematic risk and unsystematic risk. In systematic risk, that is the uncontrollable factors, which involves the market risk, and then it involves purchasing power risk, and then it involves interest rate risk. Along with it, we also discussed the unsystematic risk, which is controllable. In that, we discussed the business risk, only internal business risk we discussed, and in today's class, we will be discussing the external business risk. So external risk factors means it is based on working on external condition. Okay, it's beyond your control, but you can try to minimize. For example, you can take sugar industry. Sugar industry is very much influenced by the rules and regulations of the government. So that is nothing but your external risk. In external risk, you are comprised with three set of risk. One is the social and regulatory factors. So social and regulatory factors, it might be on import, it might be on export, it might be on price, volume, environmental control, where there is reduction in the profit, and this risk is mostly seen in public utilities. For example, if you take telecom industry, then the tariffs are fixed by the government. The regulations are fixed by the government. You don't have that much of freedom to fix it. And if you take the example of banking industry, so banking industry, if you take the interest rates are all fixed by RBI. So you don't have control on that. If you take the example of leather, then many tanneries are closed by the government. So that will affect the production of leather. So these are all the social and regulatory factors which has an impact on the external risk, external business risk. In the same way, another factor we can say is political risk. So political, how stable or unstable of the political condition of a country is known to all. But if it's very much fluctuating, if there is change in the government, there is change in the policy. If there is change in the FDI, there is change, whoever is in the ruling party, they make the policies. They are the policy makers. They are the policy framers. So whenever the ruling party changes, the policy changes. Now when we say the current political party, they concentrate towards the Swadeshi movement, where Indian made, India's produce are given more importance. Whereas in the previous we saw that they gave more importance towards FDI, that is foreign direct investments. So each government pays their attention on a particular category in order to make it more appealing and to create image in the public mind. In the same way, another factor which influences the external business risk is the business cycle. Okay, here business cycle in the sense, you know about the business cycle, where there are four stages in the business cycle: introduction, growth, maturity and decline. So this is the introduction stage, this is the growth stage, this is maturity and this is decline. So this is how a business cycle flows. Whenever the business is new, it's in the introduction stage, then obviously the business risk will be less, because they are new to the business, then they are trying out new things, it is okay. Then whenever reaches to the growth and maturity level, they keep on increasing their share prices. So they have an advantage. So obviously the business risk will reduce. But again, when the industry or the company comes to the decline stage, the business risk will increase. So depending on the business cycle, it might be recession, it might be boom, depending on the business cycle, that has an impact on the business risk. Okay, this is about the business risk of unsystematic. Okay, next is financial risk. So here financial risk means it refers to the variability in the income of the equity capital due to the debt capital. So when we say financial, it's a combination of debt and equity. So we can combinedly tell it as it is based on the capital structure, because equity gets dividend and preference get dividend, but debentures get interest. So first the payment will be made for the debenture holders, then the payment will be made for the preference shareholders, and then it will be made to the equity shareholders. So the companies which are earning high income, that is high profit, will be able to distribute to all three in a satisfactory manner. But if the companies are running with the borrowed funds, then cost of borrowings will be more. When the cost of borrowing is more, the earning is less, and there are chances that the company will be bankrupt. Okay, this is an avoidable risk. Okay, you can take such decisions. The management can take good decisions by which you can try to minimize all these, because this is based on the combination of debt and equity. It is considered as a difference between EBIT and EBIT. EBIT and EBT. EBIT is earnings before interest and tax, and EBT is earnings before tax. If you compare the difference between, it considers the difference between these two parameters, and also they'll fix up the earnings, they'll generate the earnings. If the earnings are high, the company is happy, satisfactorily distributed to everyone, but if the earnings are less, then there is no distribution, and chances that if it is too less, then the chances are to go for bankruptcy. But this is all depending on the management decisions. Okay, to segregate this, along with these risks, there are other we can say other types of risk which influence, or sources of risk which influences, that is the management risk and default risk. Okay, the management the risk associated with ineffective, destructive, the name itself is telling you underperforming management, means the management decisions are not right, the compositions or the members in the management are not suited for their positions. Then it has an impact on the shareholders, because they will be getting less earnings or less dividends. Okay, so it's better to have a good composition or good team of management which will run the company successfully and generate income for themselves as well as for the shareholders, and divert the business, so that wherever you have, if one business earns profit or loss, that is compensated by the other. Another one is the default risk. So default risk, where the company is unable to make the required payment. So if the payment have to be made, then if they don't have enough funds to make the payment, we call it as default risk. It means the debt obligation. Lenders and investors are exposed to the default risk, where virtually all forms of credit are extended. They have extensions from all forms of credit. They mitigate the impact of the default risk, and the debtors levels of default risk, they calculate, they correspond, and higher the risk, higher the required return. So default risk means not pay, you don't have enough money to make your regular payments, that we call it as default risk. So these are the different types of risk which we know to which we have to know in order to understand the concept, in order to do the problems. In order to do the problems, you need to understand the theory concept first clearly, and then you can apply the strategies into the problems. And now we have understood what are the different types of risk. Now the risks are understood, but in order to cover the risk or to minimize the risk or to avoid the risk, you need to take certain measures to do that. And let's know what are the measures to minimize the risk exposure. The first risk under systematic risk we spoke about was the market risk. In order to minimize the market risk, you need to study the historical prices, the behavior of the stock market. We normally tell no, history repeats itself. That's the reason you have to study the price behavior of the stocks, the movement, that is whether it will go high or whether how was the trend in the previous 6 months, previous 1 year, previous 2 years. You need to know the trend. If you know the trend, based on that you can apply standard deviation, beta, you can calculate the volatility of the stock and then decide whether to hold the stock or whether to sell. In market risk, when the market risk is high, you have to hold the stock and it is the time to purchase the stock. Okay, that is the strategy which you have to use for minimizing market risk. And next risk we know is the purchasing power risk. Purchasing power risk, where the investment is made for the short term security. If you want to minimize the purchasing power risk, you have to invest in short term securities or diversify your business into real estates, precious metals, arts, in any business, but just to minimize the losses. Okay, this is what you can do in order to reduce the purchasing power risk. And next is interest rate risk. If you have to reduce the interest rate, then you have to hold the investment till maturity, because if you hold the investment till maturity, the whatever interest rate was fixed, that you will get, and if it is for a longer period of time, the benefit is more. And buy treasury bills for short maturity. Okay, that is risk free rate. No, that's the reason you have to buy the treasury bills for short maturity, and you have to invest in bonds which has different maturity dates with good yields. One will mature in 3 months, another one will mature in 6 months, another one will mature in 1 year. Like this, you have to select a bond which has got different maturity dates and has good yield. This will help you out in order to reduce your interest rate risk. Okay, then you have the next risk, which is unsystematic risk. Okay, unsystematic risk. In unsystematic risk, you have business risk. Let's know how to minimize the business risk. Okay, if you have to minimize the business risk, you have to strengthen. You have to analyze that is, you have to do a SWOT. Okay, you have to analyze the strengths and weakness of the industry. It might be the government interference or rules and regulations. So overall, how is the influence of government on that particular industry? What are the new rules and regulations framed by the government related to that particular industry? This knowledge you have to gain. And also you have to analyze the profitability to choose a consistent stock, and means consistent stock in the sense which is neither moving, the stock prices are neither moving too sharp high or too sharp low. It should be consistent. That is known as, by doing this you can reduce the business risk. And to identify whether it is sharply increasing or sharply decreasing, the standard deviation will help you out. Based on the standard deviation, you can measure whether the whether the profitability is consistent or fluctuating. Okay. Now moving on to the next unsystematic risk, which is the financial risk. Coming to the financial risk, you have to analyze the capital structure, that is the combination of debt and equity of the company you choose, And ratio analysis, that is debt equity ratio, will help you out in doing this, where it is 0.5:1 or 1:2 you can take. That is the ideal ratio, and based on that you can make a decision whether the company's financial position or the capital structure combination is good or bad. Okay. And for this, because the interest payment also will be considered, whenever there is boom period, high leverage companies should be selected, because all will be having profits and the chances of getting higher profits are more. Okay. That is about the methods of minimizing the systematic and unsystematic risk. Last topic, that is the ways to calculate the risk, how all you can calculate. Whenever we start doing, that is in the next class when we start doing the problems, I will clearly tell you what signifies, but the different tools which you can use in order to measure the, calculate the risk for individual securities and portfolio. For the first one is standard deviation. Standard deviation helps you to measure the variability of returns. It calculates the risk of both systematic and unsystematic. That is it helps to measure the variability, that is the fluctuations. Okay. Then another tool is variance. The standard deviation what you have calculated, if you square it, you get the variance. Then you have coefficient of variation, comparing variability, uniformity, consistency of two or more distributions, that we call it as coefficient of variation. That is the relationship. The next is variance. Variance means the relationship between the variability of returns in two independent securities. That is when the co-movement between two variables. How is the co-movement between two variables? That we can check through covariance. That is the relationship between variability of returns in two independent securities. That is covariance. So here we have done 2, then you have 3, sorry, then we have correlation coefficient. Correlation coefficient measures the linear relationship between two variables. It signifies the strength of the relationship. How strong is it? Like normally the correlation coefficient should range between -1 to +1. R should range between -1 to +1. Here -1 is negative relationship, +1 is positive relationship. So it shows the strength, how strong it is. Okay, it is, and this is always denoted by R. If R is 0, then it is that is, if R is greater than 0, we'll just say R is greater than 0, that is you can say plus 0.5, plus 0.35, like this. If it is greater than 0, then we say there is a positive relationship, and if it is R is less than 0, then we say there is a negative relationship between the two variables. Then another important tool is beta. Okay, so beta we write in this form, that is beta, that is denoted by a small b in a line, that is beta, and beta is a measure of stock volatility in relation to the overall market. So here to give an example, if the beta is 1, means the market beta is always 1. Okay, it might be S&P 500 or anything, the market beta is always 1, and whenever you compare, the individual stocks are ranked according to how much they deviate from the original. For example, if the beta is, this is an example, if the beta is 0.5, it means if the market moves up by 1%, the individual stock will move up by 0.5%. That is how you analyze the beta. Okay, this is what we have done in today's class. To sum it up all, we discussed the risk concept. Risk is the probability of loss okay, of occurrence of an event, that is risk. There are two different types of risk, systematic risk and unsystematic risk. In systematic risk, it is uncontrollable, you cannot control it. There are three in that: market risk, purchasing power risk and interest rate risk. You can just try to reduce it. For example, in market risk, you can hold the security up to a certain period of time. In purchasing power of risk, you can take the help of inflation fluctuations and diversify your investment. And interest rate risk, you can buy the bonds which has a different maturity period, okay, like that. Unsystematic risk is controllable, you can control it. There are two types in that: business risk and financial risk. Business risk will deal with the management concept. If they are not efficient enough, then the risk is high. That is also divided into two parts: internal and external. Internal, within the company, which is controllable, like fluctuation in the sales, or if to make an alteration or fix up a proper fixed cost, that is internal. External, if you have to say, then the government rules and regulations, which are not controllable. Government rules and regulations or interest rates, all these are the external business risk. In financial risk, you mainly concentrate on the capital structure, the composition of debt and equity. So if the debt and equity combination is in the right proportion, then there is no much financial risk. If it is not in the right proportion, then the financial risk is high. Then also we learnt the measures. So tools, that is standard deviation, beta, variance, covariance, coefficient of correlation, coefficient of variation. These are all the different tools which are used to calculate the risk. In next class, we will start doing the problems pertaining to risk and return. To do the problems, understanding of the theory is important, because unless you understand the theory basics, it is very difficult for you all to understand the concept of the problem. Here analysis types of problems will be there, where you have to analyze what kind of problem is being given. Based on the problem, the solution has been derived. Now, to continue with the problems, let us see a simple problem to have a connectivity of risk and return. Let us see a simple example problem. This is not of any question paper. So, which we initially solved in the same way. This is a simple example problem. So, to put the example, to solve the example problem, let us put some data given in the problem. Let us say we will assume the face value of a share is 10 and dividend is 25%, and then the investment of the share is 225 and the selling price of the share is 268. So, and number of shares we need. So, number of shares is 100. Rate of return. To calculate the rate of return, first we have to calculate the dividend. Okay. To calculate the dividend, we calculate the dividend always on the face value. So, face value into the dividend percentage. So, here the face value is 10 into the dividend percentage is 25%. So, you get is 2.5 into the number of shares we have to consider. This is 2.5 is for one share. So, number of shares we have to consider. So, your total amount is 250. And after you finished calculating, then we will calculate the investment. So, investment is simple. Your total investment is 225 into the number of shares, which is 100. So, your total investment is 22,500. In the same way, next is your capital appreciation, which is needed. For capital appreciation, your selling price minus your investment into number of shares. So, your selling price is 268 minus 225 is your investment. So, you get 43 rupees into number of shares is 100. So, your total amount is 4,300. With this information, these are the working notes which we have to do before getting into the formula. So, the formula of calculation of rate of return is dividend plus capital gain divided by investment into 100. So, continuing it further, here only I will continue. So this formula, so our dividend is 250 plus our capital gain is 4,300 and our investment is 22,500. So this is our information into 100, and if you simplify this you get 20.22%. So this is your final answer for this problem. So this is the formula. In order to get into this formula, you need to calculate the dividend, you need to calculate the capital gain, that is capital gain or capital appreciation. You can call it both the ways, and divided by investment into 100. If you simplify this, you get this answer. This was the simple problem of written. In the same way, we get problems on individual stocks and portfolio. This is just a simple one. Again, extension is there which will be continuing in the next class. Thank you.